What is good, all you cool cats and kittens? Your Commissioner Tim back at you again for the Week 11 recap. Man, we've only got 3 more weeks left in the regular season. What a series of games that we've had, and what a race that is shaping up right now for the 2nd seed as well as the 6th seed. I love that. I think all of this is going to go down right to the wire into Week 14. Don't have much of a special episode this week. We're just going to talk about the matchups, the Nostradamus picks, and the power rankings. So let's get started with one of our first segments that we always do, which is going to be the Nostradamus pick'ems for the week. We've got ourselves a first matchup, the matchup for 2 Shots No Cup against Bills Mafia. Bills Mafia gets his first league-leading output this week, putting up 161 points, and gets this solid win over 2 Shots No Cup, almost 3 times the output of 2 Shots No Cup. Moves up to 8-3, still tied neck and neck with Kyle. So it's just going to require one slip from those 2 managers that's going to essentially determine the 2nd seed. But if they win out, then we know that Kyle is going to take it. All right, so Eve still stays winless for the season at 0-11. Time's running out for Eve to crack 100 and get his first win of the season. We'll see if that happens. Still rooting for you, buddy. Moving over to matchup number 2, Just a Process against Wooksy Fingerhold. Got myself another victory here. That's 11 straight, a perfect 11-0, coming in 2nd in the league. All of us who participated got this one right. Wooksy still puts up a respectable 113 points and still sits a game behind Travis at 7. So with the loss here, Travis now moves up firmly by himself to 6th place. Moving over to matchup number 3, we've got Kevin against Moncton Meerkats. Moncton Meerkats, certainly a disappointing output. Not what you want to be seeing in a contender, putting up 116 type of a week. That said, gets the win against the matchup. The Moncton Meerkats still sits at 2nd and is right now in the driver's seat for that 2nd and the final playoff bye. So Kevin moves down a spot to 4-7, now tied at 7 along with Brad. But that 6th seed race is closing out for sure. Both of these teams certainly still in contention technically. All 3 teams, meaning Kevin, Travis, and Brad, technically still in contention. But we'll have to see what Kevin does in the next couple of weeks for him to really pull a rabbit out of his bat and get himself into the playoffs. Moving on to matchup number 4, we got Mr. Ambassador against Huge Dicka. This was as close as it comes. Had Huge Dicka lost here, his playoff probability would have shot extremely low, especially because that season-ending injury over to Joe Burrow. But 8 out of the 9 of us, Sergey, love that you bet on yourself, but 8 out of the 9 end up getting this one right. Mr. Ambassador now sits at 3-8 after 4 straight losses through the season as we wrap the season up. While there technically is a mathematical possibility of Sergey making into the playoffs, in all purposes, we can count Sergey now out of the race for the playoffs, so it really is down to a 3-person race. But Huge Dicka with this much needed win. This was a must win, and he pulled it off even in spite of the injury to Joe Burrow, but moves up to 6th, sole 6th in the league, sitting at 5-6, ramming home 4 straight wins after sitting at 1-6 to start. Now he's at 5-6. He's definitely on that R. Kelly comeback career arc, as he's talked about, but I think the next couple of weeks are going to be certainly challenging for him as he's got tough matchups to close out the season, whereas we've got Brad with really easy matchups coming up. All right, let's move over to what was the original Commissioner Pick'em matchups of the week. It was Full Jerry against Breester Dynasty. The reason I pulled this is I actually thought there was a chance that had John lost and had some of the matchups went the way that it did, there actually is a chance that John could have gone from a 99% in week 9, post week 9, to 94% post week 10. And there would have been a chance for Full Jerry's playoff probabilities to get as bad as about 60% chance had he had a loss here. But Full Jerry pulls a very, very nice win. It doesn't do much for Ryan's playoff probabilities. They're both locked in, but now with this win, it means that John has fully secured himself into the playoffs. So now it's all good. No pressure, and I love the move that John made. He knows that he's not resting on his laurels. What a pickup for Travis Kelce. I think the value was certainly there. But that said, I think it's certainly John moving in, trying to maximize the timeline with some of his aging running backs and putting a tight end to his roster. Basically, he's got 75% of the roster that Eve was running for the last 2 years. That's basically what John has, minus the quarterbacks, which have been his since day one. But John has certainly moved up. He's going to be a contender. He's going to be able to really make some noise in the playoffs. I don't think you'd want to face him in round 1 or certainly round 2. I know I wouldn't, but certainly John gets a very, very needed win here, and it'd be really interesting to see how he closes out the rest of the season. It's not going to make much of a difference in terms of who he's going to be facing in the first week or the second week, because there isn't much of a change in the 4th and 5th place in terms of who they face. They're just going to always face each other. So John and Ryan, we pretty much probably got ourselves a little preview of what this round is going to be in round 1 of the playoffs. So that said, Ryan gets a very, very concerning 66 points. That's the thing about Ryan's roster. There's been several weeks where it just comes out of nowhere and almost gets closest to league low. And we saw this similarly early last season when he lost to Kevin, with either week 2 or week 4 or something like that. So we'll see what this means for Ryan going forward. But I know he's certainly obviously made some moves. So we'll see how a lot of these post moves and how the team settles in, what this is going to mean for the playoffs. We've got 3 more weeks, and certainly this week, right now, between now and end of day Monday, when Monday Night Football concludes, that's going to be the remaining moves. That's the trade window that's left. So you got to make your final moves now, and we'll see what happens for the season to come. All right, so that does it for the Nostradamus, and here's sort of the tally I wanted to share here. It's very much a race. There's a few teams that got this one perfectly. Unfortunately, that means the current second place, which was Moncton Meerkats, gets 4 out of 5, while the previous leader, me, gets 5 out of 5. So now I'm sitting at 47, and we have a couple of teams, I believe Ryan and Kyle, that's sitting at 45, and John sitting at 44, along with Eve sitting at 43. So still much anyone's race, but certainly now is the first time that there is more than 1 point separating who's the winner to the second place. So at 47 to 45. We'll see if I can keep this one up. So that does it for the Nostradamus. Let's talk about the power rankings. Contender power rankings, everyone. Absolutely 0 changes for me. Call me lazy, but I think this is just how I want to see it. This is exactly how I see the teams. Again, I think Bills Mafia, you could say, is a better team than Moncton Meerkats in terms of what their points for might be on a week-to-week basis, especially the post-trades that Bills Mafia has made. But again, I think it's going to have to be favoring which of these 2 teams are going to get the buys. And as of where things stand right now, Moncton Meerkats controls the destiny, is in the driver's seat to be able to get that second because of that points for tiebreaker, which he has a big head start on for Bills Mafia, or advantage on against Bills Mafia. Same tier. Top 3 teams, I think same tier, similar tier. Any given Sunday, any given series, it's going to be a coin flip of type of a outcome, especially post trades. We got Brady Store Dynasty and Full Jerry. I think you can make an argument of maybe moving Full Jerry up or Brady Store Dynasty down. However you look at it, I think they're similar outputs. That said, if Brady Store Dynasty is severely impacted now because Jamar Chase and now because he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, I could definitely see a scenario where Brady Store Dynasty is actually potentially the weakest playoff team come playoffs. So there's a range of all those things exist because he's traded away Tyreek Hill. He was dependent on Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow's out. If Jamar Chase is not going to be able to put up anything, kind of like a Garrett Wilson wasn't able to, then Brady Store Dynasty is probably going to have 0 legs to stay on come playoff time. Full Jerry's obviously looking stronger, and he's, I think that was his season high, if not one of the higher weeks for him as we close up the seasons. And Huge Dicko right now on fantasy points, fantasy pros, he's at 66%. So post that win and the loss to Wooksy Finger was a 30% swing in favor of Huge Dicko, 14% to his probability, and a minus 16% to Wooksy's finger hold for a net 30% gain for Huge Dicko now. So certainly commanding in the driver's seat, but like I said, Wooksy Fingerhold has some the easiest stretch of his season to finish out these last 3 weeks, while Huge Dicko is going to go through his hardest 3. I think it's a must win for him. And as I mentioned, it is my commissioner pick of this week between Huge Dicko and Brady Stewart Dynasty. I think there is certainly a chance for Huge Dicko to get this win over the injured and ailing Brady Stewart Dynasty. If so, I think the chances of Huge Dicko is going to be as low as 75% and as high as 90%, depending on what Wooksy is able to win this week or lose this week. Kevin technically is still definitely in it. He's within a 3% chance of getting in, but it is definitely getting harder and harder, and he's going to have to start making some late season moves in terms of the wins compared to losses that other teams are going to be facing. And week 14 matchup between him and Wooksy is basically going to be the biggest playoff mover between those two teams as well. And with Sergey, with the loss on Fantasy Pros, they got him less than 1%. So I changed his odds here to a little smiley face, kind of like Eve. But again, Sergey is also not technically out of the playoffs from a mathematical standpoint. But that said, it's very, very difficult to envision a scenario of him getting in. All right, so that does it for the power rankings. And we are now just 3 more weeks to play, man. It's crazy how fast time has gone by this season. It's been a joy competing with all of you this season. I love the moves all of you are making. I love the competition. I love the fact that everyone's incredibly talented in terms of what they want to get out of the season. So keep at it. Looking forward to seeing some groundbreaking moves. I certainly want to get this video out before there's any major trades that I need to factor in. So that said, good luck in week 12, boys. Peace.